We are live.
Hi everyone,
Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm John,
and I'm Hayley.
and we are the Speed Mooting team.
We certainly are.
So this is the Speed Mooting Partners in Crime podcast, where we chat about everything to do with law, life and practice, studying, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's not related to law.
Everything in between.
Yeah, pretty much everything in between. And summer's finally hit.
Thank the Lord.
Indeed, indeed. I didn't actually think it was possible for us to get into double digits this year.
It's been absolutely glorious this week, hasn't
Oh,
it?
it's been amazing. I've actually been out in a t-shirt. So, yeah.
You could have been to the beach and everything. It's been so nice. But
Yeah.
fortunately, we have responsibilities.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's not an option for me, sadly.
Not yet.
Not yet, you know.
Maybe soon.
Maybe soon, yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
But, yeah, I might be on a beach sooner than you think.
Sooner than you think. Watch this space.
Watch this space. I thought you were talking about me retiring there. I was like, what?
No, going to the beach sometime in the sun.
Yeah. So
inside scoop, guys, we're joking because we've got a holiday coming up very soon.
We certainly have. So let's dive right in.
Let's go.
This is episode 57. Don't think there's a Formula 1 driver with that number. Can't see any real link to WWE or any other sport for that matter. So for simplicity, many years ago, when Vettel and Raikkonen were teammates at Ferrari, they're number 5 and number 7. So this one, we'll call it the Ferrari special.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, very fitting.
So welcome to episode 57, the Ferrari special.
Welcome. So,
it's been a very busy week.
It's been a manic week, hasn't it?
Yes. So
Hayley's been holding the fort while I've been away at trial.
Yep, you've been away at trial.
3-day trial.
Day.
And secured a nice little not guilty verdict for my client.
You certainly did.
Yeah.
It's funny how you just never know which way it's going to go, do you? I mean, I always say, is Tinker will be guilty, not guilty? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it always surprises you, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
The jury is a unpredictable beast.
You can say that again.
So yeah, that was work life.
Yeah.
Speed mooting wise, we had the family law session at the Advocacy Club.
That was good.
It was a massive success. We were joined by 3 practitioners. Do you want to reel them off?
Yeah, so we had Louise Duckett from DSD Law. So she is a family law solicitor who drafted...
And a part-time judge.
And a part-time judge, no less, who drafted the problem for this week's Family Law Advocacy Club session. We had Anna Waters, a family law barrister from 18 St John Street. And we had Shajeda Begum from Abbey's Solicitors, a partner at Abbey's Solicitors, and also specialises in family law. And the reason that they joined us this week is because at the end of a advocacy club session, normally I come on, give some tips, give some hints, talk about the piece of advocacy, and given that I know literally nothing about family law, I thought it would be best if we brought someone in who knows a little bit more than me.
Yeah.
And not only did we bring someone, we brought 3 people.
Did you study family law at university? I did.
Yeah.
Was it second year when you do options for the first time?
Yeah, you can pick options in second and third year.
I might have a family law book going somewhere upstairs.
You never know.
Never throw those books away. I still don't think I could have took on that family law advocacy club session though.
No.
With that limited information I had from a family law module when I was, God, how old would I have been? 21? 20?
Yeah.
19?
Like yeah, 19 or 20.
Very, yeah. A long time ago, guys. So we definitely needed the help. And we were really grateful that they joined us.
They did offer family law in our university. And I've got a feeling we might have been one of the first cohorts to have done it because it was a relatively new module. And 95% of the year picked it. So it was almost like a compulsory module given how many people picked family law. But I just had no interest at all.
Isn't that strange? Because you like the criminal law, you probably would like the family law.
It's very similar, and I'd probably be very good at it. Yeah, just
not where your heart lies.
Not where my heart lies at all. Yeah.
But yes, as John said, at the end of a family law session, we deliver a talk and we open up to questions. And it was such a popular session. We had so many questions. We will basically be dedicating this podcast to all of those questions. So it's an Ask Speed Squad special.
It is indeed.
The ones that were specifically related to family law or the family law piece of advocacy that we were practicing, our practitioners did answer during the session.
Yeah.
So sorry guys, if you want those questions answered, you should have been there. So don't miss out next time. But yeah, all of the ones we didn't get to and the general advocacy questions, John and I can hopefully answer for you all.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Are there any tips you would give specifically for people who are interested in family law?
Okay.
I think it means, to get experience in that area of law.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I would do is try and gain, placements with chambers or law firms. So, find some local chambers, local firms, start writing to them. And, instead of just, here's a CV, can I have some work experience? Do something quite tailored, explain to them why it is that you like family law, that you've studied it, you've done well in the module, what you like about that firm or chambers, and see if you can get in there. Secondly, find your local family court and attend. So it might be that some hearings are open and you can attend those hearings. So for example, this week we did the non-molestation order, which takes place or the application for the non-molestation order, which takes place in private. So you couldn't attend one of those, but there might be other hearings which are open to the public that you can go into, that you can watch. So try and attend court and sit in on hearings. You'll learn so much. You'll see the style of advocacy. And as we always say, when you see barristers outside the courtroom on the concourse or solicitors and they're not particularly busy, pick their brain.
Yeah.
Have a chat with them and you never know where it might lead.
Indeed. And there's also, volunteering and work experience stuff that lends itself to someone with an interest in family law. We've talked about assistant advice a lot, haven't we? We've both volunteered there. And family law problems come up a lot. A lot of people that have experienced a family law issue will go into their local assistant advice bureau. So you'll get some involvement in that way. I volunteered with it wasn't my local council, it was Warrington City Council, the family law team. I shadowed them for a week. So, it doesn't just have to be law firms. Have a look at anyone who dabbles in family law. Your local housing, I don't know, they might let you do work experience. That's stuff that family law crops up in. So think outside the box.
Exactly.
And just take any opportunity to experience family law. Take every opportunity that comes. The same with any area of law that you're interested in, really.
Yeah.
So that advice completely transfers.
Yeah. Perfect. Any more questions, Hayley?
Yes, John.
We've got a few.
We've got a few. To what extent should you refer to case law / acts when advocating? This is a very general advocacy question. Yeah.
Well, simple answer, the typical lawyer answer.
It depends.
So it really depends on what you're doing. So, if you're doing something that's, a pretty routine piece of advocacy and your tribunal knows, the law that governs that piece of advocacy, then you probably don't really need to. So for example, if you're doing a bail application, you wouldn't need to take them to the specific part of the act. You wouldn't be there saying, Section 4 says everyone has a right to bail, and you wouldn't do it. It's known, and you wouldn't be going through, the schedules with the exceptions, etc., etc. So something like that, that's very commonplace. Your magistrates are dealing with it day in, day out. Your district judges, your judges are dealing with it every single day. They know the law on that, so just deal with what the test is.
Would they probably cut you off or stop you if you started citing the act?
Depends. I mean, in the magistrates court, probably not. But, if you're in front of a very senior judge, they'd probably say, Mr. Dove, I'm familiar with the bail act. So, something very simple like that. Likewise, I bring it back to criminal advocacy because it's what I know. Clear mitigation, it's a very sort of, I call it bit of a common sense piece of advocacy because it's all about common sense. You're looking at, what are the obvious mitigating factors. You're telling the court about that. Sometimes case law can come in actually if you're dealing with a very tricky sentence. Particularly with more serious stuff in the Crown Court, you would be looking to existing case law to see, how the appellate courts have applied the guidelines and, how the appellate courts have dealt with cases in the past, for example. So, that on trickier sentences, you might go into case law, but you kind of routine sentences, you're just looking at the guidelines, explaining how it applies, explaining, how mitigation is relevant, etc. So it's just sort of a common sense argument, if I put it that way. I might be downplaying it a little bit, but that's the way to look at it. And likewise, when you're at trial, when you're doing speeches, you're not really, often you're talking to jury, so you're not talking to them about the law, etc. Now, when you're dealing with legal argument, okay, so let's say you are having a trial, okay, Crown Court trial, and the issue might be, let's say it's something to do with joint enterprise. Okay, we've had case law about this recently. Whether joint enterprise applies, and you might be arguing, what directions are going to be going to the jury. Well, of course, in those circumstances, you'll be looking at previous cases. So when you're dealing with your legal argument there, you'll be arguing that in front of the judge. I had a case very recently whereby there was extensive legal argument, and it related to whether or not a defence could go to a jury. We've recorded a piece about that, and it's going to go in a future podcast episode. So we've spoken about that. So keep listening to the podcast because you're going to hear that fairly soonish, actually. Me talking about legal arguments at trial. So whenever you've got legal arguments, the clue's in the name. You're going to be talking about acts. You're going to be talking about cases. But it depends, and you'll just get a feel. You'll get a flavour for it. But if it was to give a general rule, if it's a fairly common argument, something that occurs all the time, and the court is going to know everything sort of by rote, you don't really need to. If you're dealing with a more nuanced point, a more novel, complex point of law, then of course you need to cite those in your arguments.
Boom. There we go. Hope that was helpful to the person that asked that question. Any tips for practicing speaking without a script?
Okay. So ultimately, this person presumably wants to be no longer be reliant upon a script. And, we talk about this all the time, Hayley, that, you shouldn't have a script that you're literally reading verbatim because it's a bit wooden. So if you literally stood there with a piece of paper reading it like that, it's a bit wooden. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a script and having it in front of you, particularly if you get to the end of a fairly long trial. You might find that, some people do this, you might find that you have a script there. Now, I would certainly advocate practicing your closing speech at least once, maybe twice, ideally more if you can, but, practicing beforehand. But, with the best will in the world, you're going to find it difficult to, remember absolutely everything. So, from my point of view, I don't really see an issue with having your laptop in front of you. You're speaking to the jury. Obviously, you're not going to be consistently looking down at the laptop, but you might glance down. Okay, I remember what that paragraph's about. Glance up, or you might need to glance down a couple of times in the sentence. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is, it's all about practice.
Yeah,
it's all about practice, and the more you practice, the better you'll become. So coming back to I developed my public speaking skills at Liverpool Speakers Club, where I go along and I do speeches, nothing to do with the law, about anything. I've spoken about cars, fast food.
I'm sure the law's crept in there a few times.
I'm sure it has. And what I would do, because these speeches have to be 8 minutes, so I'd draft my speech up. And as I always say, 100 to 120 words a minute is what you want. So 800 to 960 word speech, and get that typed up. And the first few times I would practice this, I would literally just stand there with a piece of paper in a room somewhere and just read it from the script, just to try and get it all in my head.
Yeah.
And then as you're going along, I'll get to the point where I glance down and go, oh yeah, I remember this part. And then I can deliver that section. And then hopefully you get to the point whereby you go, well, do you know what? You can turn those full paragraphs into bullet points. And then you've just got those bullet points in front of you.
Yeah.
But the long and short is, practice is the way to get around that and not be reliant upon a script.
Yeah.
If you find you go into your first few moots, advocacy competitions, whatever, and you're reliant on a script and you're literally reading, that's normal. It's not ideal, but it's normal.
Yeah.
I did it. I wouldn't advocate it, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And as time goes on, you just build your confidence. You get to, know your material in a better fashion.
Yeah.
And you get to the point whereby you can kind of think off the cuff. And it's like, I think a point that you've made, Hayley, which is, you become more dynamic because you might glance down, okay, yeah, I remember this section. And as you glance up, you'll deliver it differently to how you've done 2 or 3 times ago when you were practicing.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want it to come out.
And it's about being comfortable with that, isn't it? Knowing, okay, I know the material. I just need a prompt. Oh, I was going to talk about this next. And then you can talk about it because you know it.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like, you look at your script and go, oh, damn it, I forgot that sentence. Because it doesn't matter. Like, if you know everything and you deliver a great speech, it doesn't matter if you don't remember it the exact way that you've practiced it.
Yeah, exactly. So, in summary, practice is key.
Yeah, the key to practicing Speak Without a Script is to practice it.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? This is interesting. What are some key aspects to the art of persuasion?
That was interesting. I think go on, you were about to say something there, Hayley.
Yeah, I was just going to say because I don't do as much public speaking as you do, John. John does it day in, day out. So I'm speaking from an audience member's perspective. So something that would persuade and speak to me as an audience member would be somebody who clearly cares about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Someone who clearly knows what they're talking about. And someone who is obviously comfortable and confident.
Yeah.
Nothing loses me more as an audience member than somebody who, and you can feel the nerves.
Yeah.
Because I can't concentrate on the speech thing because I'm just like wanting them to be okay. Yeah. And just because, I'm such like an empathetic person, I'm just like, oh no, I can feel them like when they're nervous.
Yeah.
Where sometimes you'll listen to a great speech and you'll hang on every word. And afterwards they'll say to you, oh gosh, I'm so nervous. And you're like, it didn't show at all. Like what you were saying was really persuasive.
Yeah.
So that's from an audience point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I agree with you on that. Certainly when you're doing presentations in the law, not every case that you can present is going to be a case that you would naturally want to take. We have what's called the cab rank rule, and you might find you're going to during the course of your career you're going to represent a broad range of clients in organizations, etc., etc. You may not always agree with your client's position, but your job is to present that in the best way possible. You need to become invested in that. And I suppose ultimately when you become invested, you care about the argument, but you're never going to be presenting an argument about something that you're 100% on all fours with in every single case. That's just never going to be the case. And I don't think you'd be a very well-rounded advocate if that was the case.
No, absolutely not.
So you need to really become invested in your case, whether or not you're on all fours with what your client believes in, what your client has done, etc. Now, in terms of the art of persuasion, I think there's a number of ways we can look at this. I think number one, when it comes to your arguments, I think simplicity is key. The logical argument is the best argument. The simple argument is the best argument. So find a way that you can simplify the argument. It might be that you say, well, the argument can be broken down into 3 limbs, X, Y, and Z. Follow it through. Present the argument in a logical fashion, okay, and keep it simple. If you're speaking to a jury, you don't know what their understanding of the English language is. You don't know, what their reading age is, etc. Keep things simple. Don't use fancy words and overcomplicate things for the sake of it because you're going to get yourself nowhere.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And even with judges for that matter as well. I'm not saying judges are silly. I'm certainly not saying that, but the point being, don't try and go outside of your comfort zone to use language that you would never use because A, it's not going to appear natural from yourself, and B, you've got more chance of tripping yourself up. So number one, simplicity is key. Number two, speaking slowly is really important because, as you said, if you see a nervous speaker, you're not even listening to what they're saying. You're just thinking, oh, I hope you get through this. And when you speak at 1,000,000 miles an hour, you appear nervous, you appear flustered.
Yeah.
You appear like you're just trying to get the words out of your mouth and sit down. Whereas when you speak a lot more deliberately, you speak a lot more slowly, you appear more in control, you appear more in command, and you appear more confident. And a confident speaker knows what they're talking about and therefore is naturally persuasive.
Yeah.
Stemming on from that, you make a good point, use a pause. It really drives home the point.
Yeah.
And you think about it with that pause, it just lets people percolate on that point that you've just made. So the pause is really important.
It just adds authority to what you're saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So people think, oh gosh, yeah, they know what they're talking about. Yeah. I believe them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, coming back to what we've been talking about before, if you're like this, let me tell you about this case. You're not convincing whatsoever, so don't be, as I say, nothing wrong with having a script there, as sort of a backup in front of you, helping you along, but, you don't want to be literally note-tied and just reading it word for word because, you've got no rapport with your audience and therefore you're absolutely not persuasive in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just some tips that I would give on how to be persuasive.
Very good tips, John. So these two questions are closely linked, I think, so we can probably answer them together.
Okay.
So the first is, what are some tips for being a great advocate? And the second is, what sort of activities can you do to improve your advocacy skills?
I think I might know a very good answer to the second one.
I think so.
So number one, tips for being a great advocate. See my previous answer. So all the things that I've said: speak slowly, use a pause, don't be note-tied.
And the only way you're going to get there
is practice. Yeah, it's the analogy I use is going to the gym. If you want to become stronger or what have you, you've got to lift weights and do reps. Or if you want to be able to run a marathon, you've got to keep doing shorter runs and build your way up to get there. Public speaking, advocacy, it's exactly the same. You need to get
your reps in.
Get your reps in. Beyond that, I think preparation is key as well. Because you can be the strongest advocate in the world. If you don't know the case well, if you're not prepared for it, you can't deal with judicial intervention, you can't advise your client properly, and you're not going to know the case well enough to present a well-rounded argument. So I think preparation is absolutely crucial. So it's really about, as you say, getting the reps in. The more cases you do, the more time you spend doing advocacy, the better you're going to become.
Definitely.
This video is brought to you by Speed Mooting. We are an organisation that help aspiring and junior lawyers. We run online and in-person advocacy and mooting competitions. We do online advocacy and public speaking training, and we run lots of other events to assist people on their legal journey. To learn more, visit our website, speedmooting.com.
Can I add one?
Yeah.
So a tip from me to become a great advocate is to watch great advocates.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this before, haven't we? The post office scandal, you can watch Jason Beers KC. He is an incredible advocate. He's the master of what John calls softly, catchy monkey. So yeah, you can watch him. We've had so many great advocates on our podcast. You can listen to them and listen to their advice. Get yourself to court as often as you can and just watch advocates in action. And it doesn't even have to be advocates. Watch public speakers in action. Who was the example you gave last week about somebody to watch?
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman of WWE is a great public speaker.
Yeah.
A lot of the wrestlers are.
They are actually, aren't they?
Yeah. They have to do long speeches to a huge audience that, could be booing them or cheering them. They're all gifted public speakers, so you can watch WWE.
Yeah.
But you learn so much just by watching people. You pick up a lot by osmosis. So my tip, to be a great advocate, watch some great advocates.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. And on the flip side to that as well, watching advocates, you can watch people and realize, I don't quite like that. And you'll see what you don't like as well.
Yeah. Everyone has their own personal style, don't they? So you'll find yours. And I mean, I was going to say there's no wrong way to do it. There probably is. There's a lot of things that you can do that are wrong.
Yeah.
But, style and preference and how people talk, you'll find your own style.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, coming back to, Jason Beers, KC, his cross-examination style was brilliant. And it's just, there were simple questions and, he's never cross. And he just asked them in, such an inquisitive manner. But it was interesting to watch.
Do you want to describe to our audience, in case they don't understand the phrase, that I've just said, the softly catch your
Yeah,
monkey.
so what I mean by that is, so there's different styles of cross-examination. Some people are, can be a bit more aggressive, a bit more abrupt, and, they'll go in. Why did you do that? It's because of this, very sort of aggressive. His was, he sets the traps in cross-examination without, you can't even tell he's setting the traps. And, so, nice questions, ease them in. Think they're coming along for the ride, then the killer question comes along because, he set them up.
And they can't get out of it.
Gone. Yeah, yeah. So it's it's a bit of a slow burner. In reality, there's nothing wrong, and I think it's quite right to be professional with a witness that you're examining, show courtesy to them. But of course, build it up slowly, ask those questions, lulls them into a bit of a false sense of security, and then, as I say, the trapdoor's gone.
Wow. Caught the monkey.
Yeah.
Did we answer that question? I think we did.
We didn't answer part 2 though.
Oh, go on.
Part 2. So how do you have opportunities to develop your advocacy? Well, number 1, there's a thing called the Advocacy Club. Been going for nearly 5 years now. Set up by myself and run by myself and Hayley now. Takes place on the second to last and the last Tuesday of the month. And it's an opportunity to practice advocacy in a low-pressure environment. It's open to anyone, whether you're an A-level student, law student, graduate, you're on your bar course, your SQE, your master's, your PhD, whether you graduated from all that, whether you're in practice as a barrister, solicitor, if you're a judge for that matter, you're welcome. You're welcome to come. And we cover all forms of legal advocacy: crime, family, civil, trial advocacy, submissions advocacy, mooting, appellate advocacy, public speaking. Yeah, it's all there. And what we do is we send out the papers a week before, so you've got everything. There's no research, no drafting, and it's not even a great deal of reading for you. Prepare your submissions, come along on the night. It's all on Zoom, all low pressure. We put you in a small group with other people. You get to practice that piece of advocacy, and you share peer-to-peer feedback. It's a great way to develop. Make your mistakes at the advocacy club, learn from them, and grow.
Yeah.
And if you want to just observe, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, we've got so many people that were members, and some of them that still are, that are in practice now, don't we? People come to us with no experience, and then they're crediting us when they get pupillage or when they get promoted. It's lovely, it's amazing to see. It's a great safe space for anyone and everyone.
Yeah, I had a judge the other day kept me back after just finished a sentence or something, and basically released my client, but he'd not released me. Okay, so he was holding me back, and he stands up and goes, "Mr. Dove." I go, "Oh no, what now?
What did I do?
What have I done? What have I said?" "Are you still running the advocacy club?" I was like, "Yep, certainly am. It's going from strength to strength." And he said his daughter was in the advocacy club, and she's now in pupillage. So
nice,
it's lovely to hear feedback like that. So yeah,
there we go. I hope that was helpful.
I hope that was helpful indeed.
Okay, I think we've covered everything from the advocacy club session.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you're like, "Oh, I was there, I didn't get my question answered," email it in to us, guys, info@speedmooting.com, or wherever you're watching this podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, drop us a comment. If you're listening to it on Spotify, drop us a comment. If you've seen the post about it on any of our socials, drop us a comment. Any way you want, get your question into us, and we'll make sure we get to it next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, before we move on, we do have another question that came to us outside of the advocacy club.
All right.
So this is an interesting question. I've been thinking about this today.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Are piercings, coloured hair, visible tattoos okay to have in the legal field, or is it a divided issue? I've been told different things, and I don't know if it would ever be considered unprofessional, for example, during a training contract or a pupillage interview. Can you provide some advice?
I think the answer to this one is it depends.
Yeah.
And the reality is different firms, different chambers, different organisations have different cultures and different preferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I say, different firms, different organisations, etc. They're all going to have their own views on it. think it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. You know, if that's how you are comfortable as a person, go with that. Because, you know, things are changing. There are certainly people in the profession who have piercings, who have coloured hair, who have tattoos. So I've no doubt whatsoever that you're going to find somewhere where you fit in. And, you know, if that's important to your personality and if that's how you want to present yourself, remain that way and you'll find somewhere where, you know, there will be an organisation out there for you.
Yeah.
I think so. You know, I think, you know, acting in a way that you're comfortable, and you'll find the right organisation for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think on the flip side of this, you know, there will be, we do need to be honest, there will be firms, there will be chambers or clients that won't like it.
Yeah.
And won't welcome it. And, you know, in this day and age, you know, that a lot of people will think that that's a shame, but that is the reality.
Yeah.
There will be some people that will think you should dress a certain way, you shouldn't, you should cover your tattoos, you should take out your piercings for work. That you might experience that, but as John says, it's, you know, it's what you're comfortable with. If you think, I don't mind taking out my piercings, I don't mind covering my tattoos if that's the way this firm, this chambers is, or no, I'm really, really against that, I think I should be able to be myself, then you'll find somewhere that, you know, will let you do that and let you be yourself. You'll find a place where you're comfortable. So both sides of the spectrum do exist.
Yeah, that's
is the brutal truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll find somewhere that's right for you. I can't remember the name, but there was somebody on LinkedIn speaking to this exact issue recently, and you know, it was a pretty viral post. It was doing quite well, and that was a barrister. I don't know if it was a criminal barrister. I think it might have been a
no. I've got a feeling. No, she might have been a civil barrister, I think.
Yeah, she was a well-established barrister in whatever field she was in, and she was saying, you know, she has visible tattoos. She has
the nose piercing. Is it a septum?
A septum, maybe. Sorry, we might be butchering the terminology. But yeah, very visible tattoos, very visible piercings, and she's having a great, successful career, and she's never encountered any problems. So, you know, it's definitely not, you need to fit this mold or you can't be a barrister or solicitor. Definitely not. What you're comfortable with, find the firm, find the chambers that matches your views.
Yeah, definitely.
There we go. Hope that was helpful.
Right, so is that the end of the questions then, Hayley?
That is the end of the questions, hopefully. I mean, I've no doubt, because that chat box was going crazy during the advocacy club session, that I might have missed one, and we'll get a message for next week's week's session. And as we say, we are very open to that. So if we did miss anyone's questions, please send them to us, because we'd hate to think that your question's gone unanswered. Yeah, that's it, yeah. I mean, we had it recently, didn't we, where we missed someone's question and then the following week. So if ever we do miss your question, send it again. You know, we won't be offended. Absolutely not.
We apologise 1,000 times if we do miss your question. But no, great questions, and it's always nice for us to have a good think and answer those questions, isn't it? Hayley?
Yeah, definitely.
So that brings us to the end of this session.
I think so.
So we used to talk about the advocacy club. Brings us to the end of the podcast. So not many major announcements. This month it's May, so we've got a few places left in the competition, the plea mitigation competition. So if you want to take part, get your name in the hat ASAP, because we're well over 50% full now.
Well over. I think we're nearing 70 maybe.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, get your tickets ASAP.
Yep. And that is via our website, speedmooting.com.
Yeah. Advocacy club this month, we've got the plea mitigation. So if you want to practice, get yourself in there and practice.
Oh, you'd be a fool to miss the opportunity to practice if you're taking part in the competition.
Of course you would. It's literally exactly the same format.
It'll be an old competition problem probably. So, get yourself to Advocacy Club this month, guys.
Get yourself there. We also have public speaking there, so it's great to build your public speaking skills.
And you know what the focus is this month?
Go on.
The use of notes.
The use of notes. Wow.
Perfect.
Literally couldn't have done time that any better.
Nope.
So that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed the sunshine. Hope you've enjoyed our answers. Hope you've enjoyed listening to the podcast. I've certainly enjoyed recording it. Have you enjoyed recording it, Hayley?
I've enjoyed recording it, John.
And if you're still listening at this point, you are one of our real listeners. Drop us a comment that says...
Sunshine.
Sunshine, yeah. You can even drop a sunshine emoji.
Yes, either or.
Either or is...
Either and or.
Oh, yeah. Double bonus points if you hit bonus points. But yeah, now we've been talking for a long time. We need to eat now, don't we?
We do need to eat. I will just do a shameless plug before we finish.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this and you enjoyed it, please subscribe, drop us a like, or if you're on Spotify, give us a rating, please.
Oh yeah, it goes a long way. It really helps us. So yeah, please do. Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end, and we'll see you next time. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoying our videos? Then we'd be super grateful if you could take a moment and subscribe to our channel.